And that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy that they're title sponsor for OutDrank the Coverage in 2023.
Hey, I mean, that was a good point.
I think we might start seeing some go back. Last week we did the AFC. This week we did the NFC. This week we're doing the AFC, and I've already outdrank the coverage. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett, intern Noe here, as it is Outdrank the Coverage, brought to you by Grandeur Pest Solutions. Now, if you've watched our other shows and you've normally seen this one in the middle, we're full-time on our high school shows, and it's just really, really hard to try to do everything. I did change the table, though. We actually have some of the old helmets. We have some of the stuff. I don't know what all you can see. But anyway, what we do here on Outdrank the Coverage is we drink and we talk football, NFL and college this year. We'll have that schedule out here in Cumberland Work. So that means before we start, intern Noe, how are you doing? What are you drinking?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
I am drinking an old fashioned, but the whiskey I chose is Breckenridge. It's aged in rum barrels, so it gives it an extra sweetness to it.
I think so. You've drank whiskey in bourbon barrels, bourbon and whiskey barrels. Is this considered a whiskey?
I'm drinking wine in bourbon barrels.
Oh yeah, you're drinking wine in bourbon barrels. Now you're drinking. It all confused me. But you feel like you can actually taste something different. I'm giving you a hard time, but you actually feel the difference.
It's an extra. I haven't had you try it yet, but it's an extra sweetness.
Oh yeah, I
think
forgot to try
get
it.
The casual or the person that wants to be introduced into whiskey.
That's their entryway, so that it's not quite as strong or harsh. I guess is a good way to put it. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm actually not drinking Gut Rot vodka. The fiance found it's called 1941. It's considered a craft vodka.
Yeah.
When you got here to start off the festivities, you did a shot, and this is really legitimately good vodka.
It's distilled 6 times, 40% alcohol,
80 proof.
It was very smooth with a hint of sweetness, a very slight hint, but it was one where I want to drink more of it. It's really good.
And I'm now sipping it. I've got a man. If you've listened before,
big gulp.
Yeah, big gulp. This is all Gatorade. I do a thing called the Gator Tail. Sometimes I mix it. Sometimes I chase it. I'm chasing it. But the thing I've noticed is the sweetness is at the very end when normally you would get the bad, like, ugh.
Yeah.
You're not getting that with this. So 1941, you did a good job. Good year. Well, it was a good year till December 7th.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Cheers. Anyway, so if this is the first time you've listened or watched us, we're going to give the AFC preview. Our NFC preview is either up or below us. If you're only audio only, then it's right below us. If you're video, just go keep on the channels. Like and subscribe, by the way.
Yeah.
We're almost to 1,000. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pick the AFC, and we're going to start now. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to start? I'll let you pick. I picked the NFC, kind of which ones we hit first. I don't really have a preference. So where do you want to start?
Start with the East. That seems to be the most fun one this year.
Yeah, it's funny. Last year it was the hang on, let me find it.
The West was interesting because Denver got Russell Wilson.
We go. Well, and everybody thought, I mean, and you and I remember us talking about it on the preview show last year.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought historically the AFC West would turn out to be that might have 4 winning records and 3 playoff teams, maybe even all the playoff. And then, of course, that's not what happened. In fact, not only were the Broncos disappointing, the Raiders were disappointing. I know the Chargers made the playoffs, but they were disappointing, and Kansas City ended up reigning supreme. Now this year, the East feels like that's the one that everybody's saying that about. And it's funny because I kind of feel like exactly what happened last year is going to happen this year. I don't think the AFC East is going to be the best division at all.
You think it's going to be the North?
As far as just in the AFC?
Yeah.
Yes, because we'll get to. I think people are really sleeping on Cleveland.
Yeah,
I think people are, and we're making all the jokes about Deshaun Watson and all, but the dude's a great quarterback. And last year, you didn't get anything that you really wanted to see from him. But I think a lot of that was him sitting out a full year and just the weight of everything that happened. But we'll talk about that. Let's go into the AFC East. Okay. All right. Where are you going to start? You want to give me your last place and work your way up like we did on the NFC show?
We can do that.
All right.
I haven't ordered it on my little notes, but I can tell you from off my brain. I'm going to go last place, New England. I think they've done enough this year with the addition of Bill O'Brien as the new offensive coordinator. I think Mac Jones will get back to what he was at 2021. A really good game manager with some hope for improvement down the road. I kind of like what they did in the offseason. Though the late pick was Zeke. They got Ezekiel from the Cowboys. Yep. 1 year, I think $4 million, but he can get up to $6 million.
Yeah, $6 million with if he reaches certain things.
So him and Ramondre Stevenson would be a really good 1-2 combo for them. I foresee all-purpose yards, which is kind of the stat we're starting to track now for running backs, probably close to 2,000 for both of them combined. I really like them getting Juju Smith.
Yeah,
he has his ring from Kansas City. Now we'll see what he.
But doesn't it feel like, outside of the first 2 years at Pittsburgh, he's underperformed where he seemed like he was going to be?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you get away with that in Kansas City because they're using a bevy of wide receivers and all. But I do worry. I don't know if he can go back to being the number one, and they're paying him to be a number one, folks. Yeah. I worry about that. I do think that's – I don't know. I'm with you, though. I have them last. I think you're going to probably have one with a better record than I do.
Yes, I do have them with a winning record. I think they'll finish 9-8.
So you believe you're buying into the AFC East is going to be one of the best divisions in the history of football?
I think
I got that. I have no problem with
that. I think they'll finish 4th. I think they'll finish 9-8, but I think they'll be a really good team going. I think they'll be really good next year. So I think this year is more of like a building blocks for what's to come. Bill Belichick is 2 or 3 years away from breaking the all-time coaching wins record. So he's going to definitely be there for a while.
I just want to point out, what did I tell you a couple years ago about Bill Belichick? Where did I think he would eventually end up for his last
Dallas?
Run? All right. So if Mike McCarthy does not get Dallas to the NFC title game, unless there's injuries, I don't think Mike McCarthy stays. I think Jerry Jones will fire him.
I've been saying that to friends too.
Yeah.
I really think because Mike McCarthy, 2020 was his first year. They were 6-10.
Yeah.
And then the next year they won the division at 12-5. Last season they were a wild card team at 12-5, but they won a playoff game, so they got to the divisional or the wild card division. Yeah, divisional
round. That's where they laid their eggs.
Yeah, and they were really competitive against San Francisco. They outplayed San Francisco. It was just we know what happened in that game.
Yeah.
So he's improved every year.
Yeah, but
he needs to get to the conference championship game this year. In our other podcast, we talked about the NFC, and there's really 3 legit teams that can come out of that
into the year.
Yeah, coming into the year.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas. With Seattle and maybe
I still think Minnesota. You don't. I still think Minnesota could make. I honestly, I hate to say this because all the jokes about Kirk is black or white Dak and Dak is black Kirk. The biggest thing that I think works best for Dallas is their defense, and Minnesota's defense is a struggle.
Yeah.
But the teams mirror each other a lot in a lot of ways in that you feel like that offense should do better in the playoffs and things like that. But anyway, I agree. 3 teams. But the point is, if I very easily see Mike McCarthy being fired at the end of this year.
If that happens, I could see Belichick wanting to.
Well, and here's my pick. I have New England going 5-12. Wow. I'm not in any way like I think they're done.
They have a stout defense.
They have a really good defense, but we're in an offensive era where a really good defense is still going to be in certain weeks going to give up 28 points a game. I mean, you look at I just and you look at the if Tua stays healthy, if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and just Buffalo's offense stays where they're at, they're going to need to score points. Yeah. And I just don't see that happening. I'm not a Mac Jones fan. Mac Jones was a bus driver. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to put parts around him like he was at Alabama. They don't have that. They have a really good, solid running game, but I still think that Ezekiel is nothing but a touchdown guy, which, by the way, if you're like me and you forget about that and you draft the other guy in a couple of picks, you realize son of a gun. Yeah. They don't have anybody at offense that's explosive. They got Mike Gesicki back, and I like that from the Dolphins. I will never understand why the Dolphins wouldn't use. And I know certain systems use certain things certain ways, but that never made sense to me. I just don't see explosiveness on that offense, and that's going to be what kills them. Which is weird because 10 years ago it's the exact opposite. Yeah. You this defense, we're saying, hey, and I'm not even take Tom Brady off those teams. That team still would go far because of their defense. But we are in an era now, at least for this year, where the AFC East on paper is going to be explosive. Yeah, and I just don't think they're going to be explosive. All right, so who do you have as number 3?
Number 3. This is a tough one.
Yeah, it gets really tough from here.
Yeah, because I'll briefly talk about all 3 teams, and then I'll tell you.
Okay.
With Miami, I love that they got Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator.
Very underrated move.
Very underrated move. I love they got Jalen Ramsey. I love they got David Long. I love they got Deshaun Elliott in the secondary. The smaller ones like Braxton Berrios, and then Robbie Chosen Anderson at receiver. I love what they did there. I love what the Jets did, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers. And they got Aaron Rodgers' BFF, his maybe more than a friend, Randall Cobb.
Yeah, they are. But the weird thing is until Randall Cobb, and maybe it's just because Randall Cobb went to Dallas. Yeah. And you and I read about every team, but we get more local stuff. I never realized that they were like for the longest time when Aaron Rodgers was kind of going through that weird part in Green Bay where like everybody realized, okay, he's a great quarterback, but he's kind of goofy. Yeah. Like Randall Cobb was his confidant. Yeah. So when I told my fiance that story, she goes, "Oh, like you and Noe." Like, son of a bitch. But yeah, so it's really weird. I never knew how close they were till.
I don't know if you ever remember, like he was very happy when Randall Cobb came back to Green Bay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, But I got it from all the stuff Randall Cobb talked about while he was a Cowboy. Which, by the way, I loved him as a Cowboy.
Yeah, but it was 1 year, but it was really great.
But every Green Bay fan was right. He's gonna make some catches, but there's 2 drops a game that you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, you've got to catch that. But anyway, so go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
So, yeah, with the Jets, love Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook. I think that was more of a pick just to make sure that Buffalo didn't get him because Buffalo, they have James Cook, his brother.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like maybe they're going to run Cook more. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets had a very interesting offseason. They got rid of Elijah Moore to the Browns. I'm really high on the Jets this year. And then the Buffalo, they were an offensive line away from beating Cincinnati. They just could not figure out how to play against Cincinnati during this divisional
That's
round.
A good point, yeah.
But they did a lot of good things. They got Damian Harris to back up James Cook. They got Latavius Murray for depth on the running back position. They got Connor McGovern, Cameron Dantzler at defense, Leonard Floyd, defensive end. I like what all those 3 teams did. I think those are the 3 teams that are actually going to make the playoffs. I haven't said that. I haven't looked at who I typed in would make the playoffs, but yeah. So I have coming in 3rd place. It'll be Buffalo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they will have a double-digit win season, but I think they will come in 3rd place, and that's nothing against them.
It's just you think that you're buying into the New York Jets being what everybody thinks they can be with Aaron Rodgers.
I haven't watched Hard Knocks except for the first episode.
I'll admit it's been good. I've gotten tired of the format of being super syrupy sweet. Let's talk about the rookie is not going to make it.
Yeah.
They
had Liev Schreiber on there.
Yeah.
The voice of God, apparently.
Yes. And the greatest hockey player that never made it in the NHL because he couldn't stop fighting.
Yeah.
You got to know the Goon reference.
Yeah. We need to do a show on the Goon.
Yeah. Oh, that's next year. I've already been pointing out our movie stuff, and that's definitely one of them.
So, yeah, I think Buffalo will finish 3rd in this division, and that's not a knock on them. I think they're a really good team. I like Dalton Kincaid going to there. Him and Dawson Knox are the 2 best tight end pair in the league right now.
All right.
Coming in 2nd, I have Miami. I think they'll
Wow. Love it. I love it, dude. I love it.
So I have Miami finishing second. I love everything they've done so far. But I really love what the Jets have done. Just getting Aaron Rodgers, and he looks really motivated. They were a 7-10 team with a great defense and a running back that got them to 5-2 and then got hurt. So they were a pretty good team without a really good quarterback.
You're not wrong.
Having 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers there, healthy, motivated.
That last month of the season, I know they lost to the Panthers in one of those. If you just have a quarterback getting you 20 points a game, they win 3 of the 4, and that's where they lost. That's where they got knocked out of the playoff race.
So that's my theory. I think the Jets were already a really good team.
I agree with you.
In last year's preview show, I talked about how the Jets had almost a flawless offseason.
I remember that.
And it started out a really good season until Breece Hall got hurt. So having Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook as an insurance in case Breece Hall gets hurt again, I mean, that's just great for me. And I really think the Jets are going to do well. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the AFC this year.
All right.
Tell me yours.
All right. So we're a little different, but not far.
Okay.
I have, well, we already talked about the last place. We both have the Patriots, just different ways. I have the Fins as third, but it's nothing to do with the roster. It's going to go to the same thing. Tua's not going to play a full season.
Yeah.
I'm going to still go with Buffalo.
Okay.
I think this is I'm not going to say a last gasp.
To win the division.
Yeah, to win the division. Okay. I'm not saying this is a last gasp for Jared Allen. I'm saying for the team that's constructed as it is now, this is their last chance. They've got to at least make another title game.
So they would get rid of Von Miller, Stephon Diggs.
Well, Von Miller would already be getting rid of. He might have one more year. But maybe Stephon Diggs or Stephon Diggs might be. But I'm just talking about like where you go, okay, Gabriel, you're out. Yeah. Knox, you're out. We need to start doing some more on defense because let's be honest, they already lost Edmonds from last year. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, we can talk about the offense in that Cincy playoff game, but the defense in 3 years now has let them down. Yeah. And they supposedly last year were supposed to be great.
Yeah, number one.
And
or number 1 or 2.
Somehow at home in the snow, that bothered them. That just blows my mind.
And it wasn't even a close game. It was like 27-10.
And that it wasn't even that close. Like that, the weather kept Cincy from maybe scoring 38 to 40. So I think this is their last gasp, and I think they answer the bell. I have them as the second seed. We'll just go ahead and say that now. I have them as the second seed in the AFC. I think they have a great record this year.
And I think the Jets will be the second seed.
All right. So I have the Jets second.
Do you have the Jets making the playoff?
Yes. Okay. I have the Jets making the playoff, but I think it'll be going into the last week. I think the Jets have a legitimate chance to start the year off 1-3.
Yeah.
They have a really tough schedule. I know Aaron Rodgers versus Dallas, but I just feel like the way Dallas has played that second week, I just feel Dallas, and it's nice to say I think Dallas legitimately has a defense this year. Yeah. So I think the Jets will start off 1-3. You'll start hearing some crap, and then they'll figure it out. And I have them going 9-8.
Okay,
but I have them making the playoffs. I have Buffalo going 12-5.
I want to see what I have the Jets because I have the
Jets. Go ahead and look at your stuff. You don't have to. I don't want you to feel like you have to. But anyway, so
I have the Jets and Bills both making the playoffs. I have the Jets being the 2 seed at 12-5. I have the Bills being the 6 seed at 10-7.
I have Buffalo, the Jets, and the Fins all making the playoffs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you'll be surprised about my 7th.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I have literally bounced my 6 and 7 in this conversation. Okay. I had the Jets at 6, but I go back to the Tua thing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he'll be out enough to where I think they get in. I might even mistakenly said they didn't get in when we first started this about the Fins. I meant to say I just don't see Tua playing 17 games.
Well, they did get Mike White, the former Jets quarterback.
There's a guy on one of the message boards that claims that Dallas let the next great quarterback slip through their hands. Mike White was on the Cowboy roster.
Yeah.
And that he's been a big – I like Mike White. Mike White, I know we all keep trying to find the next Ryan Fitzpatrick because it's a fun guy.
Yeah.
Steve DeBerg used to be that for a while. Dave Craig was that for a while. The guy that just bounces around.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody like Gannon who does that, and then boom, late in their career, they find the perfect place and they run off an MVP season.
Yep.
I think Mike White could legitimately be that.
Okay.
The problem with those players is usually – they're throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns against the bad teams. And then when you get them up against a really good team, that's when you see their deficiencies.
250 yards, 0 touchdowns,
3 interceptions. Yeah, there you go. And so that's their deficiencies. But I had the Fins out when we started. You actually talked me into it because I do have to remember they do have a really freaking good roster.
Yeah.
And they've got Vic Fangio, and he's got
Jalen Ramsey.
Well, just on paper, one of the most underrated, talented defenses. And so I actually had the Fins out. I had to take a team out, and you'll be shocked at who I took out.
Okay.
Let's just say Pat Mahomes. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking on that one. But anyway, so you in the AFC, you have the Jets winning the title.
Yeah.
You have Miami number 2. You have Buffalo number 3, but all 3 making the playoffs.
You can look. I take that back. I did. I can't change my mind.
Uh-oh.
I have so my
You're
notes,
looking at your notes.
In my notes, I have Buffalo as a 6, but I'm changing my mind right now.
Okay.
Miami's a 6 in my note, and so yeah, the Jets and Dolphins.
Dolphins does not make the playoffs.
Buffalo does not, but they will have a winning record.
Okay, I want to see that just to see what would happen.
Oh yeah, just see what the off season.
Yeah, because do you fire the coach?
Yeah.
Do you talk about? We're in an impatient world.
Yeah.
Does your quarterback? Do you start talking about trading him for assets and starting over?
Yeah. Well, the thing with Buffalo though is like their front office, their coaching, their players. It's one of the best cultures in football right now. Now you couldn't have said that about Buffalo 6-7 years ago.
Oh God, it was the worst culture in football.
Yeah,
they were literally talking about moving over to Toronto at one point and playing all their games there.
Yeah.
But that's what you and I talk about though, and why people try to quantify like teams. Buffalo has done everything right, yet they still have only made one title game, and it's not always about what you do; it's circumstances of who you play. I don't care what anybody says. That Hamlin thing changed them last year.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they didn't care about football, but they probably didn't.
DeMar Hamlin has made the 53-man roster for this season.
How would you cut him this year? Golly, would you like to be that guy?
Super
Jimmy
awkward.
Johnson would have. Hey, there's the Hearts field over there. Get over there. But
John Roper.
I disagree with you. You and I are vastly different on Buffalo. I just look at them and I still see the team. And as long as they're mentally right, I think that they're still good. But I like your thing. All right, let's now go. I'll pick this one. Let's now go. I don't know which one this is. I can't see the screen because of the way it works. So I'm just going to pick the next one. And it is AFC South.
Oh, okay.
This is easy.
Yeah.
I have one team making the playoff, the division winner.
Yes.
All right. But let's go ahead and go because there's a lot of interesting stuff. You've got 4 teams. You've got 2 of them that could be really good, in my opinion. I think Jacksonville can be good.
I think in a year or 2, this will be the best division of football.
If C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson hit. But we'll talk about that. So let's go. Who finishes worse, the Texans or the Colts?
Colts.
I agree with that because I think the Texans have a sneaky, really solid defense. I like D'Amico Ryans. I think the culture that he's going to bring.
When healthy, the Colts can be very competitive.
That's true, but I think there's so much crap going around with Irsay. It would not shock me if there's a move to try to get the Colts to be sold.
I like Stain Steichen as our new head coach. He was offensive coordinator for the Eagles last year.
Yeah.
You saw Jalen Hurts turn into an MVP candidate under him, and I really like what he will do.
Or do you just like the fact that Philadelphia had to let him go to be a head coach somewhere else?
It can be both.
Yeah, right.
Their top draft pick, Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida. He's bigger than Hurts, but also dynamic. I think he'll learn over the next few years under Steichen. And I think he'll be a very serviceable quarterback to borderline Pro Bowler. My problem with the Colts this year, if we're just looking at 1 year only, is they didn't really add much to this team. They added Gardner Minshew as an insurance at quarterback, Isaiah McKenzie, Samson Ebukam, Matt Gay kicker.
I said Jordan. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I didn't say Josh Allen. I said Jared Allen at quarterback.
You did say Jared,
Josh Allen. Sorry.
Well, Jared Allen was a defensive end
for the Vikings. The mullet guy.
So I just really think they lost a lot of people. They lost Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys. That was one of the big Yannick Ngakoue. They lost a lot of players, and I just really don't see them doing well. I think it's more of like just a blow off year while they're trying to get Richardson ready for next year.
And I don't think they would mind not having another top 3 pick. And if you get the number 1 pick, you can trade somebody who thinks Caleb Williams is the truth, and you might get 3 first round. The Colts are the Colts might be better positioned even than the Texans as far as 5 years down the road.
Yeah, honestly, I really think this is gonna be the best division of
But-
football in the next 2 years.
But Robert Irsay's or Jim Ur- was it which
Jim
one?
Irsay.
Yeah, Jim Irsay. They've got to win some goodwill back because you're not gonna. They've got a lot of cap room, but who's gonna go play for him?
Exactly.
They've got to figure it out the Jonathan Taylor thing. If you're gonna not sign him, trade him. You're not gonna get first round picks, dude. Just freaking give the kid who's at 24 and outside of last year had a foot injury, has been pretty healthy. Do the right thing and give him a chance to go play.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to win this year. You don't want Jonathan Allen to have 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns and 600 yards receptions. You want to trade him and lose. You want to go 4-13. Yeah. You want to be the team that could challenge, as we were talking about earlier, you and I were talking before we began, how many just completely bad teams are there? Arizona, the Colts, maybe the Texans, but I think the Texans.
I think the Texans did almost exactly what the Jets did last season.
I'm just saying,
had a great offseason.
Yeah,
great draft picks, great free agent signings.
Yes,
so that would be my third team.
Well, I'm just gonna say this: the Texans will be hanging a division banner in 4 years.
Yeah,
not this year, but 4 years.
Yeah, not this year. They have a lot of good young talent mixed with some good veterans in their late 20s, early 30s. I'm really bully on the Texans getting to 7 wins. Bully. Yeah, I'm going investment route, either bully or bear on them.
Oh, you want a bear roar?
We're not going to Oakland tonight. Okay,
I almost said Taylor cut that out, and I realized he's not editing. This is all going up. But yeah, you're exactly right. The Texans. I mean, you want to talk about it? Dalton Schultz, Shaq Mason, right there. And I'm not saying Dalton Schultz is the greatest tight end. I do think his numbers were inflated because of who he had around him.
Yeah.
But when you have a rookie quarterback, the tight end is usually your best friend.
Yep.
And I think I think he's still going to put up the 600 type of yards. But for me, defensively, not only just the scheme, but people I think forget Jimmy Ward is now playing for the Texans.
Yep.
I like Jimmy Ward. You and I were like, I like who we have at that safety at Dallas, but man, if they were to go out and get a safety, I wouldn't hate it if it was Jimmy Ward because Jimmy Ward frustrated Dallas a bunch in that playoff game last year.
He sure did.
I think I'll go ahead and say it. I have Houston finishing second in this division.
Wow.
We'll get into why.
Okay.
They're not going to have a winning record. This is a bad division this year. They're not going to have a winning record. But I think the Jacksonville Jaguars I think Jacksonville, and I said it in the NFC, I think Jacksonville and Detroit are the two biggest fool's gold for this year. I think both of them are still going to be good going forward.
Yeah.
I just think Jacksonville, a lot of things broke right. Tennessee kind of went, we don't know what we're doing once Tannehill got hurt. So I have Houston going 7-10, but being second.
I have them going 7-10 too. So last year they were 3-13-1.
Yep.
So that's a big improvement.
I have Ryan's. If we didn't do awards, we need to do that next year. I have Ryan's as my coach of the year this year.
D'Amico Ryan's coach of the year.
Okay. I am very high on D'Amico. I told you that when they hired him. Yeah. I even joke so people don't know, 2 years or 3 years ago, pandemics when we brought back OutDrank The Coverage, we did Dallas and Houston because my old network wanted us to do Houston. We hated it. Not because we hate Houston. They were just boring. They were bad and boring. I would be willing to start talking Houston this year because I like every freaking move they made.
Again, like I said, this reminds me of what the Jets did last season.
I agree, dude.
Everything was hitting. Tank Dell, I think he's gonna be pushing for Rookie of the Year.
I agree.
This year. Robert Super from Houston, and he was. So they got the Houston receiver.
Houston. They learned after not taking Vince Young, the Houston guy, back when they should have.
And I love everything else they've done. They shore up the defense some. The offensive line is actually like
really solid, dude.
Yeah, which is A+ for any team, really. They did get rid of Brandon Cooks, but I think having Tank Dell there, he's pretty dynamic. Adding Dalton Schultz, like you mentioned, is being really good.
Do you know how I know that the Houston Texans are closer than what people realize? And this isn't a joke. They got somebody like Hassan Ridgeway.
Yeah.
Hassan Ridgeway is at this point in his career where he is what you call a veteran presence in the locker room who can also still get you 4, 5 to 8 sacks.
Yeah.
I have a Hassan. I know Hassan Ridgeway.
Oh.
So the last year that intern Noe, you didn't come to the games. We invited you. But the last year that Grant Goodwin and I were broadcasting actual games, Mansfield High School and Mansfield Timberview both made the playoffs and went really, really far.
Yeah.
Mansfield Timberview made the semifinals. Mansfield made the region finals. And Hassan Ridgway was a defensive end for the Mansfield team. And then he went to play at Texas. He had a really good career at Texas. And then he's now been in the league 8 years. And he's a defensive tackle that you can split out wide when you need to. He's played for the Eagles. He's played for the Colts. He's played for the 49ers. I mean, he's that guy. When you feel as a coach, you're ready, you bring in those guys.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna teach the young guys things. And so that's why I'm not kidding. When they announced that I was like, Ryans feels really good about his team because you don't waste a roster spot on Hassan Ridgway.
Got the linebacker he wanted, Will Anderson.
Yep.
From Alabama.
Yep. Fast.
So, great draft. Yeah, great draft.
Draft.
They gave a lot up to Arizona during the draft.
I'm fine with that, though.
Yeah.
They had a lot of draft capital to give.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to spend it or burn it. If you feel, whether we agree or not, and you and I said this before about Cowboy picks. Again, you go back over the last couple of years, some of the Cowboy, Micah Parsons, you and I remember a draft like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you trade down and just get corners? Well, now we realize Dallas felt that he was the guy. I have no problem with who Houston drafted, and I have no problem with what they gave up for Stroud and what they gave up for Anderson. Yeah. Because not only did I still don't think in the long run they gave up a ton, but then as you said, you get Dale, who is a 3rd round pick with a 1st round grade. And so to me, it all averaged out. And then you get 2 solid linebackers from Alabama. You get Juice Scruggs, who might end up being their starting center before the season's over. Yeah. I'm really high on what the Texans have done.
So I have them finishing 3rd, 10-7, or 7-10.
I have them finishing 2nd, but same record, 10-7.
Second, I have Tennessee.
Ooh, so we're going to be completely different again on this. I like it.
Tennessee winning the division.
I don't have Jacksonville making the playoffs. Again, I have Jacksonville 3rd.
I have Jacksonville repeating as champion.
I have no problem with that. I get it. I get why people are high on them. I just still go back and look at how they won the Cowboy game. There's a lot of games. Same thing with Detroit. This is why, and I will admit, you have to prove it to me. I don't tend to swing on the fences on the teams that haven't proven it to me yet.
Yeah.
I just feel like there was a few games where Jacksonville didn't win, the other team lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I will admit I'm looking at the Cowboy.
But that is good learning growth for the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, because now he
a good point.
Doesn't give up. He's going to keep playing. He's a gamer. And you saw it toward their winning streak toward the end of the season. He just never gave up, and they ended up winning a lot of games. They were 9-8. So anyway, Tennessee 2nd. They will make a bunch of changes in the offseason, which they made.
I think they do no matter what they
do. This past offseason, they made a bunch of changes. They got rid of a lot of coaches, offensive coordinator they got rid of, offensive line, secondary. They got rid of Robert Woods, Austin Hooper, Jeff Swain, Taylor Lewan. I mean, there's a lot of great players from the short time period from 2018 to 2021 where they were really, really good.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you think about the Hopkins signing?
I think it's pointless. I think he should have went to another team. I think he should have went to the Patriots
But that you don't buy into the idea that with Derrick Henry, Hopkins is your deep threat, and you can kind of go back to where you were before you stupidly traded A.J. Brown?
If Peter Skoronski, their top draft pick, turns out to be the great guard he could be, then maybe because
is he guard or tackle?
He was a tackle.
He was tackle in college. That's right.
I think because of his size and his short arms, which is kind of like a thing they were talking about in college or during the draft.
Tyrex arms.
Yeah. I think they might move him to guard.
No, that's a good point. I forgot about that. You're right. You're right.
So I'm not really sure. I mean, I like Tannehill. Tannehill's a winner. He may not win you a Super Bowl, but he'll get you a winning record.
Yeah, he's going to play it safe.
Derrick Henry can give you one more great year. They drafted Tajay Spears from Tulane.
That's the one thing that I think Tennessee missed last year was having that change up back behind Henry.
Yeah.
I think that's going to take some snaps away from Henry in a good way, but also just look, I love Henry. He'll catch a screen pass, but Henry's a pass blocker and nothing else when it comes to the pass game.
Yeah, I mean, like if he can get an open field and start moving, then yeah, he's lethal because no one's going to try to tackle a linebacker at playing running back.
No, you're right. But that's a good point, actually. But I'm worried about the Nick Folk signing. I know that's weird, but like Nick Folk in New England and the Jets, he can kick anything from 30 in. But we're in an era now where you'll give up a couple misses at the 40 if you got a guy that can kick it 65 or 55. I don't say 65. I think in that Tennessee is one of those that gets very underrated bad weather games late in the season.
Yeah.
And I know you'll say, well, Nick Folks was played in New York and he played with the Patriots. But if you watch them, Bill Belichick didn't try anything outside of 35 with Nick Folks. So I worry about that a little bit. Or maybe that makes them more aggressive, which makes them better.
So I have Tennessee finishing second, but not making the playoffs.
So you have only one from the South as well.
Yeah, so either 8, 9, 9, and 8. Division winner for me, Jacksonville. Just they didn't really add anybody. They got Brandon McManus. That's about it. They lost Jawan Taylor, their tackle. They lost Marvin Jones back to Detroit. Arden Key left. Shaquille Griffin left. Riley Patterson, their kicker, left. So it was basically Riley Patterson for Brandon McManus. Their draft, they got offensive line.
I like Harrison from Oklahoma.
And Brenton Strange is a good pick, but then they signed Evan Ingram to an extension. So.
Well, I think the idea is Strange is your blocking tight end because Ingram's basically a passer. He's almost a wide receiver. Yeah. That's why I think it took Jacksonville to kind of uncorking his potential is because, he lined up with his hand on the ground, but he would also go in motion to a slot.
It was just an interesting thing because he's a muscular receiver.
Yeah,
we'll say that.
But he's a terrible blocker.
So I guess, Strange would be good. So they got Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne. Then they drafted Brenton Strange to back up Evan Ingram. They drafted Tank Bigsby to back up Travis Etienne.
To be your power back.
Which is fine because in this league,
you need two.
If
not three sometimes. Yeah.
So, I have Jacksonville winning the division. I think they're going to go 11-6. They'll be the 4 seed in the AFC playoffs.
Wow. I have Tennessee as the 4th seed. We both have the South being the 4th seed, the worst division winner. I have Jacksonville going 7-10.
Okay.
I have Tennessee going 10-7, and they'll literally. I wouldn't shock me if 90% of their win if they sweep the South.
Okay.
It would that's again, and if they don't, then you might be right because I think this is a bad division, but we're not talking like everybody's 5-11. I think there's everybody because everybody's beating everybody. I think everybody's going to have decent records, but they're all going to be lower.
In my head with Tennessee, I figure Will Levis is their quarterback for Kentucky. He's going to eventually be their starting quarterback. I think
2 years from now or 1 year from now, next year.
I think this is Tannehill's last year.
I do too. No matter what, if Tennessee wins the Super Bowl, they tear it down.
Yeah.
If they don't win the Super Bowl, they tear it down. If they don't I don't see any way. I could see Henry staying, but I don't see any way that Tannehill is the quarterback for Tennessee next year, no matter what.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if they win the Super Bowl, they go, well, we got to keep him one more time. But I think that's when you use the excuse of, okay, we won the Super Bowl. Let's now completely change. And I think that's a smart move, by the way. I think that would help them.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think no matter what, good or bad, this is Tannehill's last ride in Tennessee. I don't think he's done career-wise. I think he's done in Tennessee.
Yeah. All right. So we got through the AFC South. Since I picked the East and you picked the South, I figure it's fair that I get the next pick.
All right, go for it.
Let's go with the AFC North.
I literally put it on before you said it. I went, okay, so this is where you and I, all right, let's just go. Your last place team. I just
to me, this is the best division in all of football.
I agree 100%.
These are 4 teams that should all be in the playoffs.
3. I don't think Pittsburgh's a playoff team.
You think they're going to have a losing record finally?
Yes, I think they finally do.
All right, so Mike Tomlin, head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was in 2007. That was his first year.
Jesus Christ, I can't believe it's been that friggin' long, dude.
Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 3 coaches in the last 55 seasons.
You remember when we used to say that about Dallas?
1969, they get Chuck Noll. Sorry,
well, I was going to let you float on that one. I was like, you know what? He going to figure it out.
Yeah, so from 69 to 91 was Chuck Noll. From 92 to 06 was Bill Cowher. And from 2007 to now is Mike Tomlin. So 3 coaches in 55 seasons. Never had a losing record.
All 3 of them have won a Super Bowl.
All 3 of them have won a Super Bowl.
Only one of them has lost the Super Bowl.
Only one of them has lost. Oh, no, both of them had lost. Because
duh.
Bill Cowher lost
Green
to
Bay. Well, Dallas. No, I was thinking. No, I forgot Tomlin lost to Green Bay in Dallas.
Yeah.
God, you know when God hates a Cowboy fan? When he gives you a beautiful stadium, he makes it snow oddly.
Yeah.
And then he puts Green Bay and Pittsburgh in there as the champions. Is that not like that's when you know Jerry Jones sold his soul to the devil for those 3 Super Bowls? But anyway, you're right though. Pittsburgh is. Dallas used to be, but Pittsburgh is the epitome of a stable franchise.
Yep. So in this division, I do have only one team coming out of it, surprisingly.
Because they're so good that they're going to eliminate each other. Yeah, no, I have more than one, but I totally freaking agree with you on that. That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, I do have Cincinnati winning the division, but I'm going to start from the bottom.
Okay.
Coming out the rear.
Wait. Hello.
This is not a knock on any of these four teams.
Yes.
I will say, yes, I agree. It'll be Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. Now, you and I are probably different. I think Pittsburgh is a 6-11 team. I don't think Kenny Pickett's the answer.
Okay, I think he is the answer.
Okay.
I think he had a really good year last season.
He came on really strong at the end. I will not deny that.
Yeah. I think he was 7-5 as a starter.
Yes.
But yeah, I like what they've done in the offseason. They shored up the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They drafted Broderick Thomas from Georgia. He'll be able to tackle. They got Isaac Samolo from Philadelphia, be their guard. So they have their interior line is really good. Their center guard is really good. So I can see a lot of Najee Harris up the middle for this team. They got Patrick Peterson.
Doesn't it feel like though that Harris, after like the first 7 games of his rookie year, since then he's been very underutilized?
Well, I mean, he thought he would have a big year this past season.
He's had a bunch of 10 carries, 32 yards, but 2 touchdowns. And the reason I know is I've had him on fantasy. So the touchdowns have been there, but man, well, remember the game that I needed. You and I both had him in different leagues, but in our league I had him, and I needed him to do a certain points to qualify for the playoffs, to win that game, qualify for the playoffs. Yeah. He got it with 2 touchdowns, but he literally was 10 carries, 30 yards. Yeah. And it was so frustrating because it was like any other running back that should be 10 carries, 80 yards. And I'm not saying it's his fault. I think Pittsburgh is just in a weird area right now offensively.
I kind of view Pittsburgh like I view the Colts. They're going to be really good in a couple of years. They had a really
when
good
Ryan Tannehill's their new quarterback.
When Ryan Tannehill's their new quarterback.
That's actually one of my hot takes.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Kenny Pickett's the answer at all.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Wow.
I guess this is a show where we share our opinions.
Our Pickett feelings.
I'm a little butthurt about it, but whatever. I like the youth they got at Pittsburgh.
I totally agree with that part.
I'm very excited about to see what they do in the future. Having said that, let me just go through some of the things. I love that they got Joey Porter's kid from Penn State.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is, I mean, it's draft day all over again, but it works. I agree. And also he's a damn good player.
I love the big tight end from Georgia, Darnell Washington. I know Brock Bowers is the better tight end. That's a junior now at Georgia.
Yeah.
He was a starter.
And they already have Pete Freiermuth is their tight end who's really, really good. Had 700 yards.
Pat Freiermuth or whatever.
Is it Pat or Pete? Is it Pat? I just drafted him. I should know these things. But I mean, last year he had like 700 yards.
How many leagues are you in?
Right now?
How many fantasy football leagues
I'm in 7. I always stop at 10. 10's my limit.
Okay.
And out of those, 8 of those are people like I'm doing it with leagues I've been in for a while.
Okay.
2 of them I do random, and that's where you always know I always like to just have fun. And I'll kind of torpedo those on purpose. I draft shitty and then spend the whole time just trying to kind of like what you talk about the Vampire League. I just realized that I like to just take one team and I purposely draft crappy and then just do waiver wires because I want to see if I can rebuild the team as it goes.
I just heard about the Vampire League.
That's weird, dude.
Yeah, so a Vampire League, for anyone that's listening, it works perfectly in a 12-team league. If you're the 12th pick, so basically after you get your league ready, and then you do a draft randomizer to pick who goes from 1 to 12.
Yeah.
If you're the 12th pick, you do not draft until everybody else is drafted. So once the whole draft is over, everything's closed off. You have first pick on all free agents, everybody.
You basically control the waiver wire for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So, and then that's your lineup.
You know, one thing I thought about, though, in today's era where we jokingly say Kirk Cousins will be available to you, and he's going to still throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, he's only 35 years old. He's still healthy. He's still productive.
Did you become more of a fan of him because of the quarterback show? I did.
Quarterbacks on Netflix. I've only watched the first episode or whatever episodes I watched.
We watched 4, dude.
I don't think we watched 4.
No, we did. We watched 4. We really did. We were at my co-host for the high school show doing our big high school previews. And remember, because he took a nap.
He did take.
You forget about no, we really did. I checked it. We watched 4 episodes.
All I remember from that day was when I went back to my car to go back home. My thermostat on my truck read 118 degrees.
Oh, that's right, because you left in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember what time, but yeah, it was early.
It was like 3 or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
because we recorded 2 of the shows after you left. But anyway, yeah, I'll admit I became more of a fan of his on that show because he just seems like a genuinely good dude.
Yeah,
and for all the jokes, everybody in that Viking locker room seems to really buy in that he's the guy that can lead them.
Yeah. I do have Pittsburgh finishing like 8-9. I think this will be the first year Tomlin has a losing record, but I think they're going to be really good in a couple of years.
I agree with everything. I don't think Kenny Pickett's the true, and it's not that Kenny Pickett's a bad quarterback, but again, in today's era, to be consistently good, you need to be better than just an average quarterback.
I get that.
I can
so
see.
You don't think that this offseason or the next offseason it's going to see him make leaps and bounds improvement?
He could. I just feel he has a limited game when it comes to the NFL. Right. And I really could see a Pittsburgh team that if everybody else advances, if the picks came in, if Joey Porter's, he's becoming a short down corner, I could literally see them thinking somebody like Tannehill is like, we're a quarterback away.
Yeah.
And even keeping Pickett, but going, Tannehill's got 3 more years, 2 more years. Let's bring him in and let's try to make a run.
All right. So I got Pittsburgh coming up the rear. Number 3, it was a toss-up between Baltimore and Cleveland. I'm going to go ahead and just say Cleveland.
Okay.
I think they'll be a better team this year. I like what they did in the offseason. Jim Schwartz is their new defensive coordinator.
And he's really good.
And
they've got a really great defensive line.
Yeah. Getting Dalvin Tomlinson.
Wow.
I mean, that's just a shocker from Minnesota. He's a really good defensive tackle.
Getting Zadarius Smith.
Okoronkwo as another defensive end. So that defensive line is going to be shored up. That's just one of the best defensive lines in football. And I also like what they did in their draft was okay. I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson as a quarterback from UCLA. He had a really good year last year.
But you're not using him if things are going good in Cleveland. Like, he's an afterthought.
Right. And so in the other draft pick, Cedric Tillman, I liked what Tennessee did all in 2022 with Josh Heupel at coach and Hendon Hooker at quarterback, Jalen Hyatt as the other receiver.
Yeah.
They were an explosive offense. And Cedric Tillman was a guy that got kind of overlooked a little bit.
But how many times do those end up in pro actually having a really good career, though?
Yeah. I don't know.
I actually really, really think an underrated move was the Sakai Kia draft pick from Baylor.
Okay.
This is a road grader. And again, when you pair him with who they have with Tomlinson, you get to split snaps. And you and I have talked about this before. I give me 6 defensive linemen, and you can spread out the snaps evenly over 3 great guys, but 30 snaps in, their tongues hanging off the ground.
I think because of what you just said, because of their free agency, I think Myles Garrett might be close to 20 sacks.
I think
he's not going to get triple teamed anymore.
No, I love Micah Parsons, and I know he's been, people are like, he's the next one, but I think people forget Myles Garrett is an absolute monster. I'm like you. 8, as long as he stays healthy, 17 sacks is his floor.
Yeah, honestly, and none of these positions are a knock on these teams. These are
this is a really good division.
This is a really good division.
And I have Pittsburgh down again because I'm just not high on Kenny Pickett. Everybody else in that roster, I like.
And 2023, this is even more of a quarterback dependent league. We talked about Washington.
Yep.
In my opinion, if Howell is just mediocre,
they win 10 games.
They could even win more. They could probably win the division.
It's not that far. I do think the defense is. I think Chase Young is. I don't know what happened. It's weird. Some guys destroy their knee and they're back in 18 months. Some guy, and it just doesn't ever happen. And I do feel like Chase Young might be on that side, but even taking him off that Washington defense, you're right. And I think Pittsburgh's a lot of the same way. I think everything around the offense or around the quarterback is really, really good.
I'm high on George Pickens for them this year. I really think Pickett to Pickens is going to be a good combination for.
I hope so. I would like to say, I'm saying I like Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
it's not that I think he personally. I just don't. I just think his game is limited to what Pittsburgh wants to do.
That's fine.
So you have
I Pittsburgh 4, Cleveland 3.
I have Pittsburgh 4,
Baltimore
3. I have Baltimore missing the playoffs.
even with Odell Beckham.
It's going to go back to, and I know this cliche, I don't see Lamar Jackson. If they're going to play the same way they have, he's not going to survive.
I don't think they will because they got the Tom Munkin guy from Georgia
And
as their new offensive coordinator.
Yes, but we'll see.
They got Zay Flowers. They drafted from Boston College.
I like Zay Flowers.
Who's probably one of my favorite receivers that came out of this draft.
Yeah, he's got the big body and the speed. I agree.
Yeah, they got Odell Beckham.
They got Allen Robinson, who's very underrated.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying he's not gonna get 1,500 yards, but Allen Robinson, if he's your third wide receiver.
Oh, it's Pittsburgh who got Allen Robinson.
Oh, it was that guy, man.
Yeah.
I was looking
so never mind that.
Never mind. I hate them.
But they did draft a.
Oh no, there's only got Nelson Aguilar. All right,
whose hands have gotten better.
Baltimore's 3-14.
So okay, what I'm gonna say is they got Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, healthy Rashad Bateman, which will help their All-Pro tight end. And I really think that Baltimore is going to be really good this year. I think they'll make the playoffs. If I look at who I said was going to make the play, I do not have them as making.
Yeah, I'm about to say because you said only one came out.
Yeah.
I don't have them making the playoffs. I have 2 making it in from the AFC South. I mean AFC North.
Okay.
You and I agree where Pittsburgh's at. You and I are flipped on Cleveland and Baltimore.
So you think Cleveland's going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I have Cleveland as number 2.
All right. So I have Cincinnati winning the division.
I do too. I have Cincinnati having a really good year again.
They almost went to the Super Bowl last year without. They attempted to have an offensive line, and none of it worked. This year, I think it's.
But they got better as the season went along.
They got better
and
when those free agent signings started getting hurt, and their backups actually outperformed.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because but aren't they going with mainly the same offensive lineman though?
But they got Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah, and I like him. He's a beast.
And who's the Cowboy guy?
Lyle Collins.
Yeah, Lyle Collins. He's not going to be the starting tackle.
Something happened with him
because they're moving Jonah Williams over that right side.
This is one of those where I get it. Collins wanted to be a tackle. It makes you get higher money, and he was solid as a Dallas tackle. I get that, but damn it, if he'd just played guard, I think he would have had a chance to be an All-Pro guard.
I agree,
because that's what he did in college.
Yeah,
and he was perfectly fine as Dallas, but. Once we always talk about like, can a quarterback evolve? Can a wide receiver? Offensive linemen are the same way. Once a team knows how they can beat you, you've got to learn to beat that move, whatever that move is. And he just never did. And it was sad to see. We joked at the time because he was a Bengal, but like what Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence were doing to him, you could tell they knew his playbook.
So they're going to be good. They're the one in the division. I think they're going to take a little bit of step back because of the defensive losses. They lost Jesse Bates the third. They lost Von Bell. Lost Eli Apple in the secondary. They have a great defensive coordinator in Lou Anarumo.
He can do the Mike Zimmer hide things, smoke and mirrors. Okay,
but they're going to go young, a little younger in the secondary this season.
Yep.
The draft pick Miles Murphy, he's a defensive end from Clemson, so he's not gonna be, he's not a secondary guy. They did address the Joe Mixon issue because they weren't really sure at one point if Joe Mixon was going to even play for them this season. So they got Chase Brown from Illinois, outstanding running back.
Well, and I think they got him for the future no matter what, because Mixon I think's gone after this year unless he pulls a. I mean, again, we can talk about the running back value. Even if he pulls a 1,600 yard, which you won't.
Yeah.
I still think they get rid of him.
Yeah, and Cincinnati has one of the best 1-2 punches at receiver. With T. Higgins and Jamar
Chase.
Starting to forget names. I'm sorry.
OutDrank The Coverage.
Yeah, but they have Tyler Boyd, who's a really good veteran receiver at the 3 spot.
Yeah, a lot of people thought they were going to get rid of him, and they ended up keeping him. And I think and he took less money.
And eventually they might, because they got Charlie Jones from Purdue. I think he's going to be the guy that eventually supplants him.
All right.
So I have Cincinnati winning the division. I think they'll be the 3 seed.
I have them as the 3 seed as well, but I have Buffalo as the 2 seed. You have. You haven't said who yet, actually.
Well, it's coming up.
So I have Cleveland as number 2.
Yeah, and I have making the playoffs.
I have them making the playoffs.
What's their seed?
I actually wrote it down this time.
Oh,
I have them as the 6th seed, so basically getting in.
Okay.
So since we've already talked about these teams, just to reiterate, my bottom from 7 to 4, I have the Fins at 7. They're the last one in. I have the Browns at 6, the Jets at 5, Tennessee at 4, Cincinnati at 3, Buffalo at 2.
Okay.
So as I'm telling you right now, there's only one AFC West team, but I'm going to go past that.
And I have 3 AFC West teams.
And again, that's more like what we thought last year.
Yeah.
I have Joe Burrows having his best. I have him breaking some records.
He'll have an actually decent offensive line.
I'm seeing 5,000 yards, 55 touchdowns, 10 interceptions type. I'm seeing 2 guys with 1,500 yards at wide receiver, and don't be shocked if Tyler Boyd's knocking at that number.
Assuming everybody's healthy.
Again, assuming everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
I really like Cincy offensively. I agree with you, though. What's going to be their downfall when it comes down to it is they're young on defense.
I don't think they can get enough pressure.
There's going to be a lot of 42-35 games with them this year, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I like Trey Hendrickson, but I don't think the defensive line is going to get enough pressure to mask their deficiencies.
I agree 100%. And I think, again, down the road, I think this. I know this sounds crazy because since he's been in a Super Bowl and been to the AFC title game, but I think it's really just now beginning. We're about to see the Joe Burrow's true leap to where he's the guy that maybe if he's not made Super Bowls, you go, well, Patrick Mahomes is winning Super Bowls, but man, look at what Joe Burrows is doing. No. So I have them as winning, but I do have Cleveland making the play. I think Deshaun Watson is going, whether we like his thing, everything.
With the whole offseason removed from all the massages.
I think they're gonna feed Nick Chubb the ball more.
Yeah.
I think it's time to make him the back.
He'll probably be the number 1 back in the most fantasy leagues.
Oh, and I think, again, staying healthy, I think he flirts with 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Because as great as Deshaun Watson is,
and no Kareem Hunt.
And exactly. And as great as Deshaun Watson is, Deshaun Watson in Houston was best when he had a running game.
Yep.
When you can play action and roll him out and you make
Lamar Miller.
Yeah, exactly. And you make defenses have to make a decision in space with Deshaun Watson. Do I go up and try to stop him, or do I fall back and try to see if he throws? I think Cleveland's roster is way better than what people realize.
All right, so AFC West. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you my picks for 4-1. I have 3 teams making it out of this to the playoffs, which leaves Las Vegas as the 4 seed.
All right.
So that'll be the one team that won't make the playoffs in this division for me. Excuse me. I like that they got Jimmy Garoppolo. I like that they got Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I don't think the Raiders are a bad team. I just think they have some deficiencies.
Another really good division.
Look, we're really high on the AFC. Let's just go ahead and say that.
Yeah, to me, there's 12 teams in the AFC that could probably make
the playoffs
because they're just good teams. But it's just too deep, and you only have 7.
You put the Raiders in the NFC South. Well, hell, if you put the Raiders in the AFC South, they probably win their division.
They probably do. Because they have, they got Josh Jacobs for 1 more year at $12 million.
And he's angry.
He's angry, so he's going to be trying to. He might also push for 2,000.
I would not shock me because you're not going to want Jimmy G to throw it more than 25 times a game.
Then they did lose Darren Waller and Foster Moreau,
but Waller's been hurt the last year and a half. So
exactly, and Foster Moreau kind of made up for some of those deficiencies.
That's a good point.
They did get Austin Hooper in free agency,
who I think is very underrated.
I really like Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers as the 1-2 punch at receiver with Hunter Renfrow as the slot. So that's like one of the best 3-man receiver combos or trios you have in football right now. Just looking at the Raiders loss, I mean, I think getting Tyree Wilson, a defensive end from Texas Tech, was a good move.
Yeah, I like him.
He's more of a project. I don't see it paying. Yeah, I don't see it paying off this year. They already have an outstanding pass rusher, Max Crosby, but that's all they have.
And Crosby's a all-around guy. He plays the run well. Wilson,
kind of like DeMarcus Lawrence. For Dallas.
Exactly. And Wilson is going to be more of the specialist. I like the pick, but where they picked him, it's going to be high. The value is going to always be in question because he's going to get 12 sacks a year.
100%.
But is 12 sacks enough for a third round pick? Third pick.
Top 5. Say top 6.
I can't remember where it was. Anyway, exactly.
For what you said about him, the opposite is for Michael Mayer, the tight end for the future. They got a great value for him. He was in the 2nd round. So I think he's a tight end for the future. They got Austin Hooper for now. But yeah, they're still a ways away, and I think their head coach has some work to do in order to get to where.
No, I totally agree.
He
I
has
totally
more
agree.
respect than he did when he left Denver. So therefore,
I don't think Josh Daniels is the head coach after this year.
I mean, if they don't make if they regress, yes. But last year there was 6-11. If they get to 8, 9, 9, and 8, I think he goes.
Yeah, that's a good point because I actually have them going. I'm like you. I think this division is tougher than what I think it's more close to what we thought it would be last year.
Yeah.
I just don't have more than one team making the playoffs because I just think there's some elimination of each other type thing.
Kind of like with the AFC North.
Yeah, but you're right. If they end up going 7-10, which I have them, I think as long as it's I know this sounds weird, but a 7-10 where your 10 losses are all competitive.
Yeah.
They're all, not bad coaching decisions. You just lose.
Yeah.
If you're close against Kansas City, you're close against the Chargers. You're close. I could see that. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And if Garoppolo gets hurt and Aiden O'Connell shows anything,
then you got your future.
You got your your president.
And look, we can make fun of Josh McDaniel, but offensive wise, he's good. Yeah. He knows his stuff. It's just the whole team wise, and some of that might be unfair. Some of it we're all looking at Denver, and I think Denver. I think there's a lot of things that happened in Denver back then that probably hasn't come to light. That just seemed like a weird thing at the beginning. But anyway.
So speaking of Denver, my number 3 team in this division will be the 7th seed in the playoffs, Denver Broncos.
I have them as number 3, but they don't make the play. Again, I only have one team, so they don't make the playoffs, but I agree with you. And I have them with a winning record.
I love Sean Payton as coach. I love former Bronco coach, now defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph.
That's weird to me, though. Too soon.
That is a little too soon.
Too soon.
But I like that they got Frank Clark from Kansas City.
I say that, but Dallas basically did that to Dave Campo. Yeah. Campo fired him in 2004 and then brought him back in 2007. That's kind of, it's 1 year less.
Yeah.
So I guess that works. But Vance Joseph wasn't a lifelong Bronco.
He wasn't. Yeah.
Dave Campo was a lifelong Cowboy, so it made sense for him to just go, I'll come back. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Not good. So from Arizona, since they're purging that entire team, Zach Allen came over as a defensive tackle. Great addition. So their defensive line is already legit and set. Their secondary was already great. They got Ben Powers at guard from Baltimore. Mike McGlinchey at right tackle from the 49ers. They got depth at running back with Samaje Perine. Javonte Williams is healthy, so they got a really good 1-2 combo at running back right now.
I want to go back to McGlinchey.
Okay.
He signed for an outrageous deal.
Yeah, that was one of the first big moves this free agency period.
He's a good player. Again, we talk about it with other. He will never live up to that contract.
Yeah.
If you're a Cowboy fan, because this is a Cowboy podcast, he's Doug Free.
Yeah, which I'd be happy with.
But people thought at one time he was going to be higher than Doug Free, but he's Doug Free. He's really solid. He's really good. He'll never live up to that contract, so that's going to be the biggest. Who has the biggest? But he's a really freaking solid.
If you get a Doug Free type player, right tackle,
that's why Dallas signed Terrence Steele to the deal they did today.
He's a better Doug Free,
but he's consistent no matter what. You just want consistency at this point. But good point. Good point.
Yeah. So they did lose Draymond Jones, defensive tackle,
underrated,
but they did make up for it with Zach Allen and Frank Clark from Kansas City, who just came off another Super Bowl win.
And there's something about Clark coming in with the rings.
Yeah.
He's a good player, but he's also a really good locker presence. He's going to do you do it my way type. I could see that defensive line kind of following him. Yep. That's a really good point, man. I actually totally forgot about that. All right, they're winning this. No, I'm not going that far. But
so they drafted Marvin Mims.
I like
receiver. So they have a pretty solid team all around.
Oh yeah, nobody in this division is bad, totally bad.
And that's why I had to think about it with the AFC North, the AFC East.
You have to puzzle this when we're doing this.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams that are not going to make the playoffs in this conference.
Okay, so my big thing is, as I've been talking about this,
okay,
I see the AFC basically being just chock full of 9-8 teams.
Oh, I can see that because just beating each other up.
And that's why when I have it so I have the Raiders being 8-9. I'll go ahead and give you all mine of the AFC West. I have the Raiders being 8-9. I have Denver being 9-8. I have the Chargers being 9-8. I have Kansas City being the one team that's above it. I even have them at 12-5. I think they take a step back.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 3 teams in this division or 2 teams in this one at 9-8. I have the Ravens at 9-8. There's so many tiebreakers. The AFC this year is going to be fun because you're going to go into week 17.
If you're not a fan.
If you're not a fan, we're not. If you're going to go into week 17 and be one of those years where 25 different things can legitimately happen.
2002 playoffs. The whole season in general, really.
I'm not kidding you.
I will do a podcast just on that season.
I'm not kidding you, Noe. When I was doing my notes for this, I'm not kidding. I said Noe's going to bring up 2002 because that is one of your. But it's a great season if you just step back. Yeah. It's a great season by just how teams in week 6 look like they were out, and by week 11 they're in, and teams that in week 6 were playing for number 1 seeds. And now I legitimately think that that's going to happen this year.
Hey, 2 weeks left, or after week 15, Miami was the number 1 seed. In 2002. 2 weeks later, when the season ended, they were out of the playoffs. That's how crazy that season was.
Exactly. And it was, they lost them, but it wasn't like they completely cratered.
They did.
Other teams got hot. And I think it wouldn't shock me if you see let's go ahead and go to it. Chargers. I have Chargers finishing. Oh, I'm sorry. I have the Raiders last. I have the Chargers third. I have Denver second.
So I have the Chargers second.
But the Chargers and the Broncos are both 9-8. So I'm literally talking about tiebreakers.
And I have the Chargers making the playoffs at 11-6.
And I have them just sitting on the outside at 9-8. Again, I know that in a way I'm kind of playing it down the middle by saying everybody's 9-8.
Yeah.
But that's so everybody thinks of when you think of a great division or a great conference, you think, oh, everybody's going to be 10 win. No, because they're all going to beat each other up.
Yep.
I think this is a year that outside of, I think Dallas, oddly enough, I know the AFC East is really good. Not AFC. Wait. Yeah, AFC East. You know who Dallas? Yeah, AFC East.
NFC East.
I'm saying they play the AFC East though across. I actually think Dallas and Philadelphia oddly match up well against a lot of the AFC East teams, but I don't think anybody else in the NFC East does. Yeah. I think this is one of those years where the AFC is going to run roughshod over the NFC in the regular season.
Again, as I was driving over here, I was thinking we need to bring up the point. I think the AFC East or the AFC conference has a 2/3 win percentage over the NFC.
Now, that doesn't mean that who wins the Super Bowl.
Correct.
I think people get that confused because you look at when Tampa beat Kansas City a couple years ago, the NFC was still not better than the AFC that year.
Yeah, and then when Kansas City played Tampa during the regular season, Kansas City destroyed them. Tampa had a comeback toward the end, but I mean, it was like
that
24.
Pass rush woke up.
Yeah, it was like 24-0 by the time Tampa decided to wake up.
But so I'm not saying that means AFC wins the Super Bowl, but I'm just saying as an overall conference, the AFC is better than the NFC. Period. And it's not close.
Yeah.
Like you put Dallas. I love Dallas. I have Dallas going to at least the NFC title game.
You're wearing a Doomsday shirt.
I'm wearing a Doomsday shirt and a Doomsday hat. If you put Dallas in the AFC, unless it was the South, I don't know if Dallas makes the playoffs this year. And they have a really good roster. Yeah. All jokes aside about Dallas doesn't win. They have a roster that every GM has talked about.
Like they have a defense that's constructed to win in this era
and be just good. I think it was ESPN always does that where they talk to GMs and front office guys, but they don't name them. Yeah. And it was like 90% of them said, like, all jokes aside, this is Dallas's best roster since their Super Bowl team. Yeah. You put them in the AFC West, they finished third. You put them in the AFC North, I think they might finish better simply because I still like Pollard at running back. But anyway, my whole point is I have a lot of teams going 9-8, and a lot of them won't make the playoffs.
But they're all good.
But any of those 9-8 teams that don't, like, I don't have the Chargers making the playoffs at 9-8. But if you put them in the playoffs, I think they could still I could see a path where they make the title game. You and I are going to be talking a lot of AFC on, and we're going to be watching when we're watching the red zones. I have a feeling we're going to be focusing on the AFC and the NFC South because the NFC South can put up some PlayStation numbers.
So I have the Chargers finishing second.
All right.
I like Kellen Moore going there. I'm kind of curious to see how he affects that offense. So, assuming that they're all healthy.
3rd and 8, hooks coming, all hooks. I don't like. I mean, look, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah. I like Eric Kendricks.
Yes,
the real biggest issue is their run defense.
Yes. Well, and consistency in the secondary. They can look really good in one game, and the other game they're giving up 300 yards. But again, it's who you're playing too, and I understand that.
I like Derwin James doing a WWE body slam on Travis Kelce. Okay.
Like he's like the only guy that will stand up to Kelsey. And by the way, I was listening to Kelsey's podcast. I love their podcast.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's talked many times like he's got much love for James because James is like he goes, I'll talk crap, and James just shakes his head. And that's when I told you the story where he's like, on that play, he goes like, I turned, and next thing I know, I see God. Seriously, check out the Kelsey Brothers podcast. But yeah, I like all their moves on when it comes to that. And again, I'm not a Kellen Moore fan.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore is the epitome of what was wrong with Dallas in that they beat up bad teams.
Just look at stats.
Yeah. And they beat up bad teams. You would love them. Yeah.
But look at stats during critical games or critical situations.
And in the AFC West, as we've talked about, every game is critical. You don't get a Washington of 4 years ago when they're terrible.
But I'm curious to see what he does with full control of the offense because Brandon Staley is a defensive guy.
I think Mike McCarthy gave him full control.
I don't know. I really don't know. But we will know at season's end this year. They might be a top 10 offense just because of talent with Herbert, No,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
And all them, but I'm not
You make me doubt my own picks. Because now after talking the AFC West, I want to go back to last year and put 3 of them in the playoffs like you are. But I can't. I really don't. So I have Los Angeles finishing third, 9-8. I think the Sean Payton it worked for Detroit or Denver. Mm-hmm. I think it works better next year and the next year. I think there's still roster building.
So you have them at second.
I have them at second, but 9-8. I literally have them and the Chargers both at 9-8.
Just out of the playoffs.
Just out of the playoffs.
Okay, so we both have Kansas City winning the division.
And I have Kansas City winning 12, which I know that sounds crazy, like only 12. But yeah, I think the lack of true explosiveness at wide receiver comes back to haunt them in the mundane games. And you saw that a little bit last year, and so like losing to Indianapolis because Indianapolis just played shell.
Yeah, but they've proven that they can just insert random receivers like Juju last year, like MVS last year. And this year, they got Sky Moore in his second year. They got Richie James from the Giants, who I really like.
Yeah, he came on strong at the end last year, and I was really shocked that the Giants –
they should have kept him.
Like, it made no sense to me because literally what is the biggest weakness of the Giants this year? Wide receiver.
Yeah, they got a bunch of guys that'll get you 40 catches for 600 yards. Yeah, they don't have a guy that'll get you 100.
And he was taking the top off defenses in the last part of the season. I think, unfortunately for him, they looked at that Thanksgiving game where Dallas kind of controlled him, but then he went like three straight games with 100 yards. I can't believe we didn't talk about that more in the NFC.
We didn't, yeah.
You're right, though. I mean, that's a big. But and saying that,
they got Jawan Taylor. They got Donovan Smith. They got their tackles locked up.
I know that all that. I love that.
They lost Andrew Wiley, who was really good in that Super Bowl.
You know who they lost to? I told you the day when they traded him traded for him 2 years ago was the difference in that defense. Can you remember? I told you they lost him this year, so you can look at the list. Who is it that I was so big on, and I wanted Dallas to trade for him? Carlos Dunlap, the former Bengal. Yeah. Remember? I was and he went to Kansas City. He did exactly what I thought he would. No. I just feel, and this is saying a lot, Travis Kelce is getting up there.
He's 33.
He's going to take a small step back. It's not going to be a big step, but it's going to be enough to where it's a little harder this year. And it was harder. I know
they might need to draft a tight end next year.
Yeah, well, yeah, but just they need to get serious about the receivers again. And in saying that, I know they finished 14-3 last year, but there were long stretches where that offense struggled.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of close wins. Like remember the Sunday night game against Tennessee?
Yes.
With who was the Tennessee quarterback they drafted last year? The
Desmond Ridder? No, that's the Falcon.
The Titans, they drafted a guy at quarterback.
Yeah, the guy from
Liberty.
Yeah, what is?
But he was so terrible in that game. But it was Tennessee.
Malik Willis.
Yeah, Malik Willis.
He was so bad that Joshua Dobbs started for the Cowboys the next week. I mean, against the Cowboys the next week. That's how bad he was.
But yeah, that game was so competitive because Tennessee was all over Kansas City.
Yeah,
and Kansas City barely won that game.
Well, and you go, like I said, you go to that Colts game. They lost to the Colts because
Yep.
the Colts just played everybody back and swallowed up Kelsey.
Yep.
At some point, and I love Kelsey. Kelsey will go down. I think maybe is the greatest tight end in NFL history at this point. I know Gronk, but Gronk, as great as Gronk was, the injuries and the lack of games. Also, Kelsey just and you can talk about blocking. That's fine, but Kansas City doesn't ask Kelsey to block a lot, so that doesn't bother me. But I just think that he takes a step back enough. Again, they're still 12-5. I still have them as the number 1 seed.
Me too.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the playoffs. Here are my playoffs teams.
Okay.
Kansas City number 1, Buffalo number 2, Cincy number 3, Tennessee 4, Jets 5, Browns 6, Fins 7. But from Jets, Browns, and Fins, they're all 9-8, and there's 4 or 5 other teams. I am calling for the apocalypse on week 17.
I love it.
There's going to be everybody's going to have to play everybody.
Scott Hansen's going to lose himself.
Yes. You know how he gets excited when there's 2 teams. I think the last week, I honestly feel if everything has gone right, we're not even caring about what Dallas does that week. We're literally just focused because I think it's going to be crazy, crazy matchups. So who are your 7?
Kansas City 1.
All right.
Jets winning the AFC East.
I like
2.
that. I can see that route because I think Jets are way better than people realize.
Cincy winning the North. And Jacksonville winning the South.
I still have Tennessee 1 more year.
Yeah. Wild card, Chargers, Bills, and Broncos.
All right. Oh, so my whole thing, we kind of got. I think Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to eventually work. I don't know if the Super Bowl work.
Yeah.
I just think the roster needs 1 more year of drafting under Payton.
I agree.
Because he likes certain things to fit in certain ways. Yep. And also, I could see Kamara ending up there next year for a couple more years because I think he's
Alvin Kamara, the
yes.
current running back he's 28 years old.
That's my point.
Okay.
So the Saints next year, they're not going to want him.
Because they like Kendra Miller.
Yes. And also he's 28 years old.
Yeah.
His contract's up after this year.
Yeah.
I could see him going to Denver on a 1-year, $3 million deal and still making 60 catches and, having 800 yards rushing. All right. So how do you have the playoffs going?
So in my bracket,
I purposely did not look at your playoffs this time. I cheated last time with the NFC. I purposely didn't look at yours because I think you might be shocked at mine.
In the wild card round, I have the Jets beating Denver, so 2 beat 7. I have Buffalo beating Cincinnati, so that's 6 beating 3.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati's out of the playoffs after the first round.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I have the Chargers beating Jacksonville, so 5 beats 4 in a rematch from last season.
Yep.
Divisional round, I have Buffalo beating Kansas City. Big upset because Patrick Mahomes has never not played in the conference championship game.
And he's never played on the road.
He's never played on the road in the playoffs.
I have no problem with that.
And then I have the upset, Jets beating the Chargers, even though the Jets are a 2 seed.
Dude, don't do this.
I have the Jets beating the Chargers. And then the conference championship game, I have the Jets beating Buffalo to make it to the Super Bowl.
So you have in your Super Bowl Jets and Cowboys.
I do.
So Dallas loses on a 3rd and 72 when Aaron Rodgers farts the ball down the field and Richard Rodgers comes out of the stands, makes the catch. I hate you.
Rodgers.
I hate you so much.
You just pissed off every Lion fan that watches this show.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much.
It's not my fault. It's his fault.
So here's the crazy thing.
Okay.
I have the Jets in the AFC title game as well. I have them losing.
Dude.
Buffalo.
Oh, so we have the same conference championship game.
Mm-hmm. Without looking, folks, we promise you.
AFC East conference championship.
But do you know what that means? I have Buffalo versus Dallas part 3.
Oh, well, you know what's going to happen then.
Micah Parsons has 10 sacks.
And they still lose.
No, I have Dallas winning the Super Bowl. We didn't give our Super Bowl. We gave who made the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Or last week.
So I have Dallas and the Jets.
I have
Dallas
and I know
Buffalo.
we're going to, yes, we're homers. Deal with it. Look at the table.
Look at our shirts.
We're looking at our shirts. I mean, this is a Cowboy podcast. Now, in saying that, if the Cowboys weren't good, we would not.
Yeah.
We were back in when we first did the show back in 2013. We were calling them 8-8, and they were 8-8.
Yeah.
We both thought they would make playoffs in 2014, and we know what happened there. Des called it. But I have it. I have Dallas versus Buffalo.
Yeah.
So I have KC with the bye.
Okay.
I have Buffalo beating the Fins in a classic game in the first round.
Okay.
All right.
Which is what happened last season.
Yep. I have in the first round, I have Cincinnati and Tennessee I'm sorry, Cincinnati and the Browns, and I have the Browns winning. So we both have Cincinnati losing in the second round or the division round.
So Paul Brown.
Oh, no, you have them losing in the. No, we both have them losing in the first round. I mean,
we both have the Bengals losing in the first round.
I'm still used to the second team being the second seed or getting a play. We both have that, and I can actually my whole pick, and I forgot to say this, and I didn't also want to spoil it. I think Cincinnati sweeps Cleveland in the regular season, and then Cleveland gets that. You know, how many times is that? I know. 07. We don't talk about it.
Let's not talk about that.
All right. So then in the second round, I have the Jets beating the Browns, and then I have Buffalo and the Jets in the. God, that's really weird. You and I came with the same.
Yeah.
Now you have the Jets winning. I have Buffalo winning.
Okay.
I think that, and maybe it's just because I feel like Buffalo is at desperation. If they don't, I think it's bad enough this year.
Yeah.
I don't. If Buffalo doesn't at least get to the title game, but I really kind of think it might be get to the Super Bowl. I mean, they're talking about a new stadium. They're talking about you've got. I know this sounds weird because 5 years ago, Buffalo literally made the playoffs on a miracle, and they did the right thing because they realized it was all fluky and they got rid of everybody. But you've got 5 years with your current roster, in my opinion, in today's world, to make it to the Super Bowl. They don't have to win the Super Bowl. They just need to make it.
Yep.
And if they don't, I think you see Buffalo getting nervous because I think they're already kind of. I mean, you saw some of the moves. I think there's a little bit of nervousness in there, and we can all joke about Stephon Diggs isn't really that. I think Stephon Diggs is really that frustrated.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he's 30-31 and wants a Super Bowl, and he's been on a team that went the conference championship twice
and not been there. And people think he wants the ball more. Well, yes, it is. But I think people are misunderstanding what he's frustrated by. He's frustrated by every time where everybody's ready to queen the Buffalo as the team, they fail. And I'm just saying, I have Buffalo, Dallas. I have Dallas winning.
If Buffalo Dallas plays, I have Buffalo winning.
I just think I want to say this right now. All jokes aside, I tried to come back from this from the NFC show, but I legitimately think that Dallas this year. I think at times offensively they will struggle, but I see this being like 2014, but with a better defense. I think this defense legitimately is a top 2 defense. And I don't just mean sacks and turnovers. I mean, with their draft picks, with Hankins back, with Mozzie Smith. And yes, people go, well, look at that Seattle. Dude, he was getting double teamed by first teamers. Yeah. Mozzie Smith, when he has DeMarcus Lawrence, Jonathan Hankins, and Micah Parsons on his side with Dorrance Armstrong, he's not going to be the attention.
They roll 8 men.
Yes. And
then 9 if you include Fowler.
I will say this right now. This Dallas defense has a chance to be really, really special this year.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons is in year 3. That's when DeMarcus Lawrence made his leap. That's when most defensive end and outside linebackers make that true next step, that third year. They've kind of figured it out. And Micah Parsons, for all the jokes about how he's always on Twitter and he says things, that dude is a gym rat. He studies film. I mean, but he is like, he's that guy that he's not just getting it. The last couple of years, it's been a lot of physical with a little bit of film study.
Yeah.
But I think this year it becomes where you start to see him making that leap up. And in saying that though, the AFC is going to be absolutely balls fun this year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because everything that I'm picking multiple 9 and 8s. That means all the tiebreakers could change. I'm going off of what I feel, but it would not shock me if it is instead of, the Browns, the Jets, and the fans, it's Ravens, Jacksonville, and Denver. It wouldn't shock me in any way if it was all those.
Yep.
And that's why this is going to be a fun thing. And that's going to do it for the AFC preview. Again, you can find us online, Facebook, just type in OutDrank The Coverage. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can find us at L4 Media. Find us at OutDrankTheCoverage.com for the audio version of these. And until next time, and by the way, the next time we're talking NFL current, we're talking games, folks. The NFL season starts next week. We will be back week 2. This carries over for week 1. We'll be back week 2, and we'll be talking about Cowboys versus the Giants, Kansas City versus the Lions, and I don't remember any other games right now. Until then, he's intern. No, I'm Terry Bennett. This has been OutDrank The Coverage on L4 Media.